So you're very highly welcome to today's webinar, which is titled Driven by Focus and Vision, Achieving Success in a Professional World. It's a pleasure to be the person moderating this very important session. And in today's discussion, this is designed to help us reflect on how we should all have a clarity of purpose, intentional focus, and also having a long-term vision, which can shape our professional journeys, especially that we are in a really complex world and which is highly competitive. So we are privileged to have an honorable speaker, a well-known and globally renowned person in person of Mr. Jelani Aliyu, and he's here to share experiences, lessons learned, and some practical strategies to us all in building our impactful careers. So I encourage us all to listen attentively and reflect personally. All of us need to reflect personally. And please, if you have any question, you can put it in the chat box and we'll collate them and we'll relate them to the speaker after his presentation. So thank you very much. Over to you, Mr.
All right, thank you so much. So we have an announcement. Have you all seen our screen? Yeah, so in today's webinar is being recorded.
Not yet, yeah, not sharing, sir. No.
Okay, all right, sorry. All right, so have you seen it now? Hello, Mustafa. Is it
Yes,
visible?
sir. Yes.
All right, so this webinar is being recorded, meaning anything that we do is going to be recorded, and the recording will be uploaded in our YouTube channel, and then the link will be shared to all of our social media platforms, including a form that will be shared while the webinar is ongoing, where we'll ask you to provide your name and your email address, where this recording will be sent into your email. And also a certificate of participation will also be sent into your emails. So please, when we share the form, please provide your name as you want it to appear in the certificate, and then you provide any feedback, something about the webinar you understand. If there's any suggestion about our activities, you can communicate through the form, and then you send it to us. And please, like in our previous webinars, people used to drop the emails in the chat box. Please use the form to send your email address and your name, where we send everything to you. Also, you can ask your questions and make suggestions and anything through the chat box. And then if there's any other very important thing you want to, you can raise up your hand using the icons. And then about the agenda, today's agenda, we have an opening remark, which I'll be the one to give. And then we have the keynote presentation, which is to be given by our special guest, Jelani Aliyu, on the topic Driven by Focus and Vision, Success in the Professional World. And then we have question and answer sessions. And then we'll have closing remarks, presentation of certificates, and then that will be done by Dr. Abubakar Shaban. So as a way of an opening remark, it's all about PSI. And for those who doesn't know who we are, a greeting to you all. Our distinguished participants, esteemed colleagues, as cherished members of the Pharmacy Scholars Initiative, our invited guests, it is our privilege to welcome you all to PSI webinar series. So our forum is non-profit. It's just a mentoring career for scholars who have a keen interest in research and career development. And then the forum was founded in December 2017, and we started with the name Young Pharmacy Scholars. And as time went on over the 8 years, the platform has transformed into a registered structured mentorship network under the name Pharmacy Scholars Initiative. And then today, as we speak, the PSI has become a home for pharmacists and other professionals, including young researchers who have a passionate about research, scholarship, meaningful career development in pharmacy and other health sciences. And what we do a lot of activities. Most of them is like collaborative research. And then we do conference presentation where we share our findings. And then we do hands-on training from time to time. And we do webinars, which one of them we are witnessing today. And then we also engage through formal discussion on the platform. And then we also, because sometimes if we do the research, we realize that the findings have some implication to our community. So we normally do what we call research engagement to link up with the community. And then we do career guidance, which today's lecture is one of them. And in today's webinar is all centered about what our prof said. It's about professional landscape goals. Those who are clear about where they are going and discipline in how they get there. So we are using our guest speaker as an example to showcase this statement on about focusing on daily decision to make sure that they align with your goals, and then to also make sure that you also go outside your box to think deeper and to become who you are. As we begin this program, let this team challenge each one of us to refine our goals, to act with a purpose. To think globally and act local, to support one another in building careers that are not only successful, but also meaningful and impactful. I welcome you once again, and may this session spark new insights and renewed determination for your professional journey. And in today's webinar, we invite one of our internationally recognized and acclaimed and very well-known expert in the field of car designs, and no any other person than Jelani Aliyu, MFR. And to just provide a dot about his career and his who is he. So Dr. Jelani has extensive professional and leadership experience in the industrial and social development sectors, with a career spanning the United States, Germany, Nigeria, and now in the Gulf states. He studied automotive design at the College of Creative Studies, Detroit, Michigan, United States, and he worked for the automotive giant General Motors, popularly known as GM, in the United States and Germany. As you can see, Jelani designed this car. He designed the world-acclaimed Chevrolet Volt electric car, which is a high-tech renewable energy vehicle that has revolutionized the global automotive industry. I saw this car when I visited him, and I opened it and entered everyone, and I saw it is a very high-tech car. Congratulations, sir. He also designed a number of successful vehicles, including the Pontiac G6 and the Chevrolet Silverado. And from the design of the iconic Chevrolet Volt car, which I just showing at General Motors in Nigeria, and also to spearheading Nigeria's first solar-powered EV charging solutions, Jelani has been at the forefront of innovation, sustainability, and industrial development. In Nigeria, that's back home, Jelani served as the Director General of the National Automotive Design and Development Council. And also in this agency, he spearheaded the development of vehicle electrification by enabling EV assembly in Nigeria. He oversaw the development of the nation's first 100% solar-powered electric vehicles charging stations in Sokoto, Lagos, and Nsukka. Jelani led the development of over 20 automotive training centers across the nation, and also led the construction of the agency's state-of-the-art research and development center in Sam Rosaria, Kaduna State. Now in the private sector, Jelani has founded and leads two companies, the Jelani Aliyu Consulting, Qatar, and the Masharavia Group, Nigeria, an industrial development company. Beyond this, Jelani has a passion to inspire fellow Nigerians to develop the inherent capabilities that lie within each and every one of us, and to remind us all that irrespective of and beyond career, profession, and assignment, we must all continue to work together and leverage on our personal strengths to make the differences to our societies. So this is just a dot about who Jelani Aliyu is. And please, I would like to welcome our guest speaker today, Mr. Jelani Aliyu. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. Good morning once again. Good morning to the Grand Patron, Professor Mora and Sokoto. And morning also to everybody in this webinar and members of PSI. I'm very excited and very delighted to have this opportunity to talk to you and engage and talk about great ideas that would move individuals forward and our country forward. You know, many years ago, while I was studying in the United States, one of the electives was English. And we had an assignment to come up with, I think, about 10 poems for that English class. And one of the poems I wrote goes as follows. The roaring river with energy undivided to cut through stone and shape mountains was not but a tiny trickling stream dedicated to gathering and manifesting its magic. You know, when we look at the world's greatest rivers, you know, the Zambezi, the Nile, our own Niger here in Nigeria, the Mississippi in the U.S., you know, as powerful as they are, cutting through thousands of kilometers of different types of geography and changing landscapes, as powerful as they are over centuries, over civilizations, they all started as tiny trickling streams, and then over time gathered momentum and energy and became the powerful natural forces that they are today. And it's very similar with human beings too. We all start knowing very little or knowing nothing. And over time, if the focus and dedication is right, you grow into a very relevant, very powerful individual that can add value, make a difference to yourself, a difference to, you know, your society, and quite possibly also to the world. So the opportunities for humans are endless. You know, we all know that the human species is above all other creatures on this planet because of the high intellect that has been bestowed on humans. I mentioned that I would keep this very informal instead of a very academic presentation. Keep it very casual. And the important thing is, you know, to get the communication, to get the message across, and to get the interaction in a fun way. I'm very opportuned and honored to have had, you know, the chance to achieve a dream that I have had since I was a kid, growing up in Sokoto. A dream that took me thousands of kilometers away, further than Sokoto, further than Africa, and into the United States. I'm very grateful to the Almighty for giving me this opportunity. And I'd like to share a little bit of my journey today, hopefully to remind us of, you know, who we are and what we can do, and what the endless possibilities are. And every person, regardless of where you're born, what your background is, everyone is special. Everyone is born with a special, with a talent. Some people, you know, are able to discover that talent and develop it, and unfortunately, some don't. They go through life without knowing what their true gift is. But it's important to know that every child, whether the parents or the guardians identify that talent or not, everyone has something special, and everyone, by the grace of the Almighty, has something that he or she can contribute towards the development of their immediate society and to the world. I was born in Kaduna, but just about 7 days a week after I was born, the family moved to Okene, My dad had become the DO. They called them district officers in those days. So he was transferred to Okene. So I don't remember Kaduna. Neither do I remember Okene. I was young still when the whole family moved back to Sokoto. So my earliest memories are from Sokoto. That's where I grew up. And that's where I did my primary school. In those days, it was called Capital School. Capital School. And that was the very first time in my life that I, at a very early stage, began to understand that the world was big and that there was a whole lot more than Sokoto, because there were students, most especially there were teachers at Capital School who were from Europe, most especially from England. So we had teachers from outside Nigeria, and we had a few teachers also from other parts of the country. And then there were students too from other parts of Nigeria and also from overseas, the Middle East, of course, Europe. So at a very early stage, I began to understand that there's a whole big world out there, that one could be part of, that one could learn from. After that, I went to the Federal Government College Sokoto, FGC Sokoto, and there too, there were less teachers from around the world, but there were a whole lot more students from all over Nigeria. And it once again, escalated my perception and understanding of what makes up humanity. So there are people from all parts of Nigeria, the central part, the eastern part, western part, northeast, on where we were, Sokoto, northwest. Like I said, it made me further understand what, how fascinating a combination of cultures that we have in our country. And I think it began to sort of concretize my love for Nigeria, because, I've had the chance to live in a couple of different countries and travel to a number of different countries, but the place where I feel the most comfortable and I love the most is Nigeria. I know we have a long way to go. There are many, many things that we have to get right. But there's something about this country that I believe is special, that, through collective focus and vision, that we can achieve greatness. We just need to remember, who we are. We all come from amazing cultures, great cultures and kingdoms and caliphates that, empowered the individual, and as a result, they prospered. Somehow we lost it. Now, what we need to do is, reawaken those powerful capabilities that we really have inside of us. It starts with the individual, and then each person playing his or her part, and then collectively we achieve that. I had always loved drawing since I was a kid. I also loved imagination, just sitting down and thinking, what could be, instead of what is in front of me, what is it that can be brought about? So when you put the love for drawing together, and imagination, and also the love for cars, it led me to the vision of becoming an automotive designer. And a lot of people thought that was just like crazy thinking, right? Why would you want to design vehicles? Nobody does that in Nigeria. Where would you go to study it? But I remember one day while I was studying at FGC Sokoto, I remember that day, not necessarily the date, but I remember the time when I said, I decided I would become a car designer. I looked around me and no one was a car designer, but I reached out. I reached out to the world, and I was inspired by people who I wanted to become like. in magazines, on TV, we'd see cars, especially Ferraris and Lamborghinis. And I learned about the people who designed those vehicles. And I wanted to be like them, the Pininfarinas, the Bertones of Italy. And so I had a vision. This is what I wanted to become. So it's never too early and it's never too late to have a vision of your life vision. What is it that you really want to become the next 5, 10, 20 years, depending on how old you are and when you're having those thoughts? Because every person needs to be relevant, right? And how are you going to be relevant in adding value first to yourself and, like I said, to your society and to the world? How is it that you're going to develop and better yourself to make a difference? So that was when I had my real vision at FGC Sokoto. I wanted to become a car designer. And coupled with that, I remember growing up in Sokoto in the 70s. I remember when there was no TV in Sokoto. There was no TV. We heard about TV, because our parents and the family had lived in Kaduna and other places. But I personally had never seen TV while I was still in primary school. And our dad had traveled, and he came back one time with a TV that just sat there in the living room on this table. And because they were getting ready to get NTA Sokoto going. So we saw this big device, sitting there, and we were told, pictures would move on it. And not like today where, kids grow up with, all types of video. There's nothing new to them. But I remember when there was no TV. I remember when the only, a man-made pictures you saw was still. They didn't move. Or maybe it was a projector that you had the film, that you played. So I remember the very first time that TV was turned on and images were moving on it. So you can imagine having never seen that and the excitement of that. And somehow it really captured my imagination. I became like TV eyes. And but I also saw it as another window to the world, another window to the future, of course, also to the past in terms of history. But we watched a lot of NTA Sokoto played quite a bit of sci-fi movies. They showed people going into outer space, Space 1999, people going to spaceports, landing on, strange planets, engaging aliens and all these spacecraft. And I could feel, the future. I saw the types of vehicles that they showcase in those movies, the types of spaceports, and they inspired me to be futuristic in my thoughts. So when you take that futuristic thought, you combine it with the love for cars and the love for drawing, it really pushed me towards automotive design. So vision is very important, whether for ourselves to sort of get our direction, or if we have reached that stage for our children or younger ones. It's never too early to understand what the focus is, what the passion and strengths are for a kid, and help him or her further develop that towards a career that would be meaningful. So, like I said, a lot of people thought I was crazy. Why would you want to be a car designer? I was always drawing, coming up with my own designs, while a lot of kids were out playing football or doing some other stuff. I was drawing, and I got teased a lot. Hey, come out. Why are you always doing this? You need to do something else. But I stuck to my guns. So it's important too, at whatever level one is, once you've identified your vision, your focus, to be undeterred in your determination of achieving the results that you're looking for. There will be ups and downs. That is life, but you gotta surf through them and continue to learn. So after FGC Sokoto, I had admission at that time to 2 universities. University of Lagos, and Ahmadu Bello University to study architecture, because that was the closest thing to automotive design. And I was looking forward, as soon as I had done with FGC Sokoto, to move on and study automotive design, because I had made up my mind while still at FGC Sokoto. But I would have had to, of course, travel overseas and study overseas. And I believe not long before I graduated, Sokoto state government stopped giving scholarships for people to go and study overseas. And it was just too much money. I had to have a scholarship to go. So there was no scholarship coming from the government at that time. I said, okay, I'll just do architecture, because I'll also still do houses and buildings. So I said, I'll go study architecture. I chose ABU Sokoto, ABU Sokoto, ABU Zaria. It was closer. I know Lagos would have been good, but we thought as a family it was just too far. So went to ABU. My sister was already studying there. So I went to ABU. I was there for about a year. But something in me, I really felt it wasn't quite at that time where I needed to be. And so I thought about other things to do. And I decided to go to a polytechnic, Brinikai Polytechnic. And again, people thought, you got to be crazy. You've been admitted to Lagos, ABU, and you're saying no to all these places. You're going to Brinikai, a polytechnic? You got to be out of your mind. But I said, no, that was really what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to a polytechnic, more hands-on experience. I did that. All the while, my dream of traveling overseas just kept growing in me. And fortunately, they opened it up. Sokoto State Scholarship Board came back on board, and they started to offer scholarships again to go overseas. So that was my opportunity. I'll see if I could grab it. I put a portfolio together. I sent it out to a number of schools in the U.S. Actually, first I wanted to go to Italy because I was in love with Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and that's the country they come from. So I wanted also to go and study in Italy. But the schools that I got to know about in Italy, you would have had to learn Italian to study there. Beautiful language, but I didn't want to have to study another language before I went straight into automotive design. I also looked at England, Royal College of Art. They offered transportation design, automotive design, but that was at that time just at the graduate level. I needed to go for undergraduate. So I got a book, a thick book from a cousin of mine that listed all the American colleges. So I went through the art and design section and I picked out a number of schools. And I had never heard about any one of them. I just went by the names that sounded good. So one of them was the Art Center College of Design, Pasadena, California. And the other one was College for Creative Studies, Detroit. So I wrote to both of them. And this was way before internet, where anyone who went to school back then would have had to, learn or find out what the schools were through published media, write to them, wait for them to reply, and then you apply, you pay your fee any way you could, and then wait for a reply of an admission letter. Today is very easy. You just get online, find out all the information that you need, and apply online, and you get your admission, everything very quickly. So I did that. I put my portfolio together, which consisted of a number of the designs I had done, and not just cars. I had car designs there. I had shoes, sneakers. I had other products, motorcycles. And because when you apply to those types of schools, yes, you want to be a car designer, right? But it's not just about cars. They want to see a well-rounded capability or ability to design, to imagine, and come up with new stuff. So I sent all that off, went to the post office in Sokoto, sent it off, They received it, and alhamdulillah, they offered me an admission. So now the scholarship. I went for an interview, Sokoto State Scholarship Board. I got the scholarship, and that was how I was able to travel to the U.S. To start automotive design. Like I said, a lot of people thought I was crazy, that I needed to give up becoming a car designer, but I knew that was what I wanted to do. I had been preparing myself all the while to do that. I really wanted to become a car designer, and I stuck to my guns. It wasn't easy. I tried my hands on a couple of different schools here, but all the while, I never gave up that dream to become a car designer, even if it meant leaving Nigeria. And like I also say, I left and went to the US, never to get away from Nigeria. I love this place. I went so I could better myself and hopefully one day get the opportunity to make a contribution back home. No matter how far you go, whether time-wise or geography, no matter how far away you get from Nigeria, as a Nigerian, it'll always be in you, right? This is our home. This is where we have come from. This is where our great grandparents played and grew up and had fun, had families that led to us. So we can't give up on this country, right? No matter how hard things are. Yes, we have problems, but we must not allow those problems and challenges to define us, because that is, I believe, inshallah, temporary. We shall overcome them. And the best way to do that is if each individual believes in better days for this country. Like I said, it's not easy, and it probably will never be easy. Like, even if you go to the most developed countries, there are still challenges. There still has to be that daily getting up and dedication towards achieving the best for that particular day, achieving the best for that particular week, month, towards that collective better future for every man, woman, and child of that society. And so the same thing needs to happen. We just need to remember who we are. We just need to continue to remember that we're not just ordinary people. Every one of us is special. And, to be a pharmacist is no easy task, I'm sure, not at all. It must have taken each and every one of you a tremendous amount of effort, dedication, and time to get here. So I believe you are also, every one of you is a perfect, example of success, a perfect example of synergy. We just need to collectively work towards what I call the tipping point, where instead of groups of people being successful, it's an entire nation, an entire nation that is successful. And that's the tipping point, where you get to a point where there's so many people that are doing what is right that any person coming up just joins the bandwagon of being good towards making a better life for themselves and for the country. So CCS, went to CCS, landed there actually in the middle or the beginning, middle of winter, beginning of January. So here's a person who grew up all my life in Sokoto, and then suddenly you're on a plane and you land in Michigan, one of the coldest places on the planet, in the middle of January. And I definitely wasn't prepared. When I saw the US through the screen of TVs, most of the movies you'd see would be from Hollywood, California, bright sunshine, everything just warm and great, almost like island type of climate. So I had no idea that Michigan would be different. So I land there and it's snowy, it's cold, and I said to myself, wow, so this is really what it means to be cold. That was quite a challenge, but again, that focus and dedication, this is what brought me here. I didn't go there just to have fun all day. I went there to learn and become a car designer. So it kept me going, gave me that focus day after day. The school was extremely competitive, extremely competitive. It was always about, okay, these are the skills, these are the techniques. Now come up with your version of what you think the solution is for this transportation or automotive project. So you were always competing, and very small class, the first year, or probably maybe 20 to 30 the very first year. And we were doing generally design, automotive product and other types of design. And then for the second year, that was where or when just about 16 people were chosen to proceed as automotive design students. But it was competition every day. You were competing against the guy sitting next to you, your classmate, and because they really wanted the best. And so it wasn't easy at all. You basically or practically had very, very little social life. Your life was centered around the school and trying your best. So, after 4 years, the way it went with the school, especially with automotive design, was we had a presentation, right? Your final project, and our final project was a Toyota. Toyota came in and asked that we design a futuristic vehicle for their company. So that was what everybody did as a final project. So we did that and a final presentation. And the way it was set up, I believe still is set up. The companies come through. Toyota would come through with their top executives, most of the top designers. Ford would come in, GM would come in. They would all come in one after the other, and then we'd present to them. Right, we'd present to them, and they would go back. And if they had openings or they were looking at hiring people, that was when they made the offers. And then the people you hear people getting offers to go and start working for that company. So every day you'd hear this person had gotten a job from this company or that company, and so I wasn't phased too much. And I hadn't heard anything about me. I wasn't phased too much. I said, well, I was always wanted to go back to Nigeria. So I, started to pack my things. And because I had gotten a scholarship, I went to the payphone because they had disconnected the phones in the dormitory in the hostel. So I went there to call the Nigerian embassy, tell them that I'm done with my studies. I need a one-way ticket back home to Nigeria. And for one reason or the other, I couldn't get to the lady in charge at the Nigerian embassy when I called. So I said, well, I'll just give this lady, a couple of minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes, and come back and try to reach her to get my ticket. And so I stepped out. I saw a friend of mine through the window washing his car. Chris was his name. I'd go over, say hello to Chris and talk a little, and then go back and call this lady at the Nigerian embassy. And as soon as I approached Chris, he was washing his car, and he just looked up and said, where the heck have you been? The company General Motors is trying to get a hold of you, and they can't get you because your phone's been disconnected. I said, wow. So I went back, I think the next day, because it was evening when I spoke with him. I called GM the next day, and they said, yes, we've been trying to get a hold of you. We couldn't get through to you. We want you to come in for an interview. So I went in for an interview, and like they say, the rest is history. And that's how I got the job at GM. So it was a dream come true. So like I said, it's very important that when you identify your dream or your focus, regardless of what anybody around you says, one shouldn't really deviate from that focus. Yes, especially for the young, we should teach them to really focus on their vision. They shouldn't argue. They shouldn't say, no, I'm not going to do this, Dad. I'm not going to do this, Mom. I'm going to do what I want to do. No, you shouldn't argue. They shouldn't argue, but they should try to make people understand what their vision is. And as elders and parents and mentors, we should also, understand what the young ones want to do and help them do that. Because unless one is passionate about what he is about to do for the rest of his or her life, he's probably not going to be the best. And what we need are the best. What we need as individuals are the best. What we need as a nation are the best. The best in individual fields coming together to collectively create the best country that could be, God willing. So started working at GM, and it was a dream come true. I just couldn't believe what was happening. Here I was growing up in Sokoto, and I made it all the way to studying in the United States and getting a job with one of the world's largest companies. It was truly I was very grateful to the Almighty for taking me that far and to continue to be with me. I remember one day I was coming from class while I was still at CCS. I was coming from class. It was dark, and I was really homesick. Really homesick. I was really thinking about home, and I was thinking, it was cold. Thinking, man, I wish I was back in Sokoto. And I looked up in the sky, and I saw the moon, the full moon, the full moon. And I said, wow, I remember that sight because that was the same moon I would see while I was in Sokoto. You'd sit, on the hood, on the bonnet of, a Peugeot, you with your back on the windshield, you look up and the same moon. And I said, the same creator that put the moon up there that I saw in Sokoto is the same creator out here in the United States. And I felt comfortable. I said, that's it. This is he's Lord of all the worlds. So I felt more comfortable. So GM too, great, you've got a job at GM, but that too is another like lifelong, career-long competition. Because GM, you got GM, right? You got Toyota, Ford, and all these companies are competing against one another. When Toyota comes out with a new Camry, Ford has to come out with a new Taurus to compete with that Camry. Honda has to come out with a new Accord to compete with that Camry. GM also has to come out with maybe a new Chevrolet Impala to compete with that Camry. So these companies were always competing. And if you were to be successful working for those companies, you had to be competitive. And what they typically do, they don't say, okay, you, and you come up with this design and we'll take it and run with it. No, it's like, okay, this group of people, show us your best. What's going to be the next generation Chevrolet Impala? And then they'll choose the best because they needed the best. So a recipe for success also, whether you're in a competitive environment or not, in a very diplomatic and strategic way, you just have to be competitive. You just have to push yourself. Whether the system you work in is competitive or not, you just have to push beyond the boundaries. You just need to continuously think of what could be. It's never about what I have in front of me, but what is it that I can come up with that could be better. And creativity, as we all know, isn't just in art or drawing or design. Creativity cuts across all professions. Whatever you do, if you're an engineer, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, whatever you are, you just have to continuously develop yourself and come up with new solutions that would continuously add better and better value. That way you're progressing yourself, you're progressing the people you work with and the people you work for, and generally enhancing the society, the country, and to the world. So GM was very competitive. It was a job. It wasn't school. You'd think that, okay, I'm done with school now. The competition is over. I've gotten a job. I'm just going to chill. No, it's going to be even tougher because here you're probably just competing for your survival. Here, as an employee, you're competing, yes, for you to progress, but also the survival of your corporation, your company depends on how far you're able to push the boundaries. So working at GM was very, very exciting, very challenging. And the part that I loved the most about it was the part, because there are two types of designs that you could work on, two types of studios. You're either working on maybe next generation products. Let's say, like I was talking about the Impala, you're working on a 2000 model of a vehicle. Maybe the 2000 model version of the vehicle is on the road, and what the company wants is for you to come up with the design for the 2026 model. And it takes at least 3 years for between conception to the actual car on the road. So as a designer, you always have to look far into the future and develop vehicles that would be relevant when it comes out 3 years after you thought about it, and then continuously for the next 4 years, because you'll be producing them, you want them to be relative and competitive. So you're either doing that, coming up with the next generation of a vehicle, or you're working on what they call the advanced projects, where your job is to come up with completely new types of vehicles, ones that don't exist, but because of research and because of market survey and study and because of strategic futuristic outlook, you believe this is a type of vehicle that the company needs to work on. And that, I believe, would apply in other industries too, where you're not necessarily waiting for a problem to begin to manifest itself, whether it's in social leadership or medicine or engineering, but a successful progressive company or group or industry would always try to anticipate or do research into what are the problems that may come up or what are the opportunities that would come up, and then come up with those applicable solutions. So the part that I loved the most about GM was when I got the chance to work on those projects that they called advanced. So while I was early on working at GM, after about 3 years of working at GM, I was sent to Germany on what they called international assignment, because GM had subsidiaries in Japan, Germany, I believe even back then in Australia, and Brazil. So I was opportune to have the chance to be sent to Germany to work at the subsidiary, GM's subsidiary, Opel at that time. I was there for about 2 years, and then I went back. That was another experience too, living in Europe, in Germany, very, very interesting experience. So after that, went back to the US, and that was when I had the chance to lead the design of the Pontiac G6, and then also down the line to work on the design of the Chevrolet Volt. And the story behind the Chevrolet Volt was we were called into a meeting one day, and this was I was in the advanced studio. And let me just backtrack a little bit onto how I got to get into the advanced studio. I was in a studio that I didn't like too much. I wasn't too crazy about that particular project. But you had to do it. That was your job. So I worked on that. But in my spare time, I came up with the design of a vehicle for Africa, which I called the Zambezi. This wasn't, a project for GM, but it was something that I felt needed to be done. Because not long before that, too, we had this big meeting. The whole design staff, a couple hundred people met with, at that time, he was the new vice president of product development, and design was under his leadership. And so I said I had a question. After he had made a presentation, I had a question. I said to him, I was from Nigeria, and we had tons of oil. And at that time, we were, I think, one of the top suppliers of crude oil to the U.S. And that what were his thoughts about GM doing a car for Nigeria and for Africa? And his name was Bob Lutz. And he said, well, that's a good idea, but he really doesn't know much about Nigeria, and he'd love to know more about Nigeria. but he thought it was a good idea, but he didn't know much about Nigeria, so he couldn't really answer me all the way. My boss worked out an appointment. I went over to the big GM towers, and met with this vice president, Bob Lutz. Big office, gigantic office. And I once again told him, I told him a little bit more about Nigeria. And he said, great. So he connected me with the lady in charge of Latin America, Africa, and Middle East to see what could be done. So that was when I went back, and on my own, I decided to come up with this vehicle for Nigeria that GM could produce. So I did that, and I presented it to this lady, head of Latin America, Africa, and Middle East, and she also loved it. But GM at that time was beginning to go into turmoil, economic turmoil, and they were pulling resources back to the US. So they really couldn't at that time invest in something or look at a market outside North America or India at that time. So that project, as good as it was, they couldn't go forward with it. But what it did was, when I presented it, the chief of the advanced studio, he just fell in love with it. And he said I should come over and work for him. Even if I wasn't going to work on a vehicle for Nigeria, he saw the ability, alhamdulillah, that I could add value to his advanced studio. So I transferred from that studio that I wasn't really too crazy about to, this advanced studio. So once again, in career or in life, even if you find yourself in a situation where you're not really performing your best because that's not what's in your heart, you still have to do it. It's your responsibility. Give it the best that you can. But at the same time, on the sidelines, you just gotta burn the midnight oil, doing what you want to do, and somehow showcasing it to people who would see the value and give you that new opportunity to jump onto what you really want to do. So I was transferred to Advanced Studio, Michigan, to a separate building, away from the main design studios where most of the work was next generation design. So I was there. So while I was there, we were called into a meeting, the designers, I think maybe about 10 of us. And they said, Bob Lutz, this same gentleman that I had talked to about Nigeria, they said that he has instructed that GM come up with a vehicle that would define the future of the company. The company was about to celebrate 100 years of its existence, and it needed a new direction. So they wanted a vehicle that would showcase that direction and put that company on that new route. So the assignment of the competition once again was given to us there at Advanced Studio, and also the Advanced Studio at that time in England and in California. So quite a number of designers were asked to come up with their proposals. And we worked day and night, and we put together all these different proposals. And I believe there were close to 100 different proposals. And then they kept narrowing them down. Now, my proposal, like I do a lot of times, I draw my inspiration from my background. I draw my inspiration from growing up in Nigeria, in Africa. Because even when I was in school, my TV in the room was always on. It was always on one channel. And what was that channel? That was, at that time, the Discovery Channel. And they showed nothing but documentaries, mostly, yes, from other places, but most of the documentaries were from Africa, the Serengeti, the Ngoro, or the Sahara Desert, or the life of the Wadobe, or, things about Africa, especially the wilderness and the animals. So I drew a lot of my inspiration from that. So when it came time for this vehicle, my proposal, I drew inspiration from Africa, because I'm simply just fascinated by the creations of the Almighty. You know, when you look at the incredible things around you that He has created, you look at a tiny leaf, right? Just fractions of a millimeter thick. And yet that leaf, as tiny as it is actually a factory that produces energy, you know, and starch out of just water, nutrients from the soil, and sunlight. And then you go into the ocean, you know, the whales, the orcas, the incredible fish that live in the water, the diversity of life across the planet. You're just mesmerized by how great a creator He is. So I always draw my inspiration from that. So I said, how do I capture that magnificence and bring it into the world of automotive design? So it influenced it. I came up with a design that was very fluid, very dynamic, very futuristic, that I believed would be the solution and the answer. And so they kept narrowing down, you know, narrowing down the entrance down to five out of probably about 100. They narrowed them down to about five. Mine was one of those five. And then we had a big show, right? These big wigs, like they say, of GM came through to choose that one vehicle that would become the Chevrolet Volt. And we set it up, and we were asked to leave the main hall. But we could see through this big glass window what was happening. So all these big shots came in, and they moved from model to model. And then when they were all done, they left. And then we were asked to come back into the hall. And they said what they mentioned. They said, okay, they've gone through and they have chosen one vehicle to move forward as a Chevrolet Volt. And they said it was mine. And that was like tears coming down my eyes. I couldn't believe it, because every designer wanted to design that type of vehicle that would be a show car. And Alhamdulillah, I had the chance to come up with a design of a vehicle that would define the future of GM. And it happened right about that 100-year mark of GM. So to have the opportunity to, like I say, come from Sokoto, a Nigerian, and come up with a design of a vehicle that would define the future of GM was just unbelievable. It takes an insane amount of focus and dedication to go so far. At the same time, one must always know that you aren't really the only one in control, right? You have the Almighty who is always there, giving you all these opportunities, giving you the chance, opening up doors for you to grow yourself, giving you that ability to grow yourself, and the many very different people that you meet along the way who help you. Because like they say, no man is an island. No matter how talented you are, how good you are, how creative you are, or how spectacular you are as an individual, unless you work with people, unless you understand how to interact with people, emotional intelligence, unless you're good with that, doors will begin to lock. Because while we were at CCS, there was this particular person who was just spectacular. I mean, you couldn't touch him. He was just one of the best students ever. Everybody talked about him at school because he was just amazing. But something about him was just off. He just wasn't the best person. You know, he really didn't, he felt he was the best. He was a little bit on the arrogant side. And surprisingly, that young man, at the very first, we were all expecting he'd get offers from all the companies that they would fight over him. But no, they really didn't. And he had a tough time getting a job, not because he wasn't good. He was perfect as one could be, but he just couldn't get a job because he just did not understand how to interact and relate with other people. And I think that cuts across, all sectors and all, phases of life. One really needs to know, one needs to be humble, no matter how good you are, because on your own, you just can't make it. You need to work. You need to work with people. You need to respect people, whether they are above you or below you or the same level as you are. Whether you're it's a little kid, 2, 3, 5, 10 years old, you just have to respect people, understand how to get along with people, how to get along with people at work, at home, in your neighborhood, is vital, because only then can you contribute your best. Because like I said, what we need in this country is progress. Unless we work together, right? Unless there's a level playing field where anyone can feel free to make his or her contribution and not feel like you're downgraded, we really won't get there. And I believe we can do it. I believe all we have to do is remember, like I always say, who we are, where we've come from, cultures that we know had a lot of respect for one another, people who got along. So the Volt was chosen to move forward, and so we kept on developing it. And I'm very happy I had that opportunity. And roundabout then, like I was saying, the reason too why they couldn't work on that project that I had proposed for Nigeria, a downturn was about to happen. And, the economy of the US and a lot of the world was hit hard. And GM actually, not long after that, went into bankruptcy. And a lot of people, hundreds of people, if not thousands, were losing their jobs in GM. People were let go. People that maybe we worked with, designers, engineers, people were let go. And the tension was really rising. So GM needed money, so did Chrysler. And so GM went to Congress asking for, this was during Obama's time, they were asking for money as a bailout to help the company continue instead of just, go bankrupt. And actually, it did go bankrupt. And they usually say what is good for GM is good for the United States, because it's such an integral part of the industrial and social framework or network of the US. So they put forward a case asking the US government to bail them out with a couple of billions of dollars. And Rick Wagner was the president of GM then. And some of the questions to him were, okay, if we do go ahead and bail your company out, because what led to that was GM and other American companies were concentrating more on big old pickup trucks that were gas guzzlers. And people just stopped buying them because people didn't have that much purchasing power anymore to continue to buy big vehicles that use a lot of petrol and diesel. So the question to Rick Wagner and his team were, okay, if we do go ahead and bail your company out, what are your plans? So the Volt was what they put in front of the US government and said, okay, this is the vehicle and the type of vehicle that we would concentrate on, very fuel efficient, electric, compact. So that helped GM acquire that bailout from the government that kept it going. And so that, again, too, was another humbling experience. A couple of years later after that, I was offered by President Muhammadu Buhari to come back to Nigeria and help with the automotive sector. And, like I said very early on, I never left Nigeria because I didn't like it. I left it to have the opportunity to become a car designer. So there I was with an offer coming from the Nigerian federal government to come back and head the NADDC, the National Automotive Design and Development Council. And I had that offer because I had received a phone call. So I had that offer, and it was, okay, now should I accept it or not? On one hand, this is an opportunity to come back to Nigeria and make my little contribution. On the other hand, this is what I really have loved all my life, to be a car designer. So which one? What do I go for? I thought real hard about it. So made some phone calls home. Thought about it some more, discussed with my family, and I decided to come back. I decided to come back home and make my own small contribution, because I believe Nigerians, wherever you are, whether in the country or from outside, we all need to make our own contribution depending on what those opportunities are. So I came back home to Nigeria and started to head the NADDC. And it was a shift in focus, of course, because it wasn't or hasn't been set up to design vehicles. It's more of a regulatory body that dealt with, manufacturers. How do you promote manufacturing vehicles in the country? So it was almost a departure from what I was doing. I remember in one of my very first conversations with the then minister, he said, well, Jelani, you're not here to design cars. I said, well, I know, or maybe now I know. So, but it's a great opportunity because, the transportation sector in any country or society is vital. You just have to move people, you just have to move goods and ideas, right? So here's an opportunity to help move that sector forward. My background in automotive design and product development, especially in the renewable energies, made me think of how do we push that in Nigeria? How do we push vehicle electrification? Because that is definitely where the world is headed. Again, people thought we were crazy. Why push electric vehicles in Nigeria? NEPA comes and goes. Terrible infrastructure. We can't even charge our homes and phones, and you're talking about electric vehicles. Because a couple of years earlier, a senator had stood up on the floor of the Senate, and they just shot him down when he talked about electric vehicles, saying, no, Nigeria is an oil-producing country. Why should we shoot ourselves in the foot? But I had a feeling and a belief that EVs are the future, right? And that we needed, as an agency, the NADDC, to push EVs. Hopefully, a couple of assemblers and manufacturers jumped onto the bandwagon, and the very first was Hyundai Nigeria out of Lagos. This is a company that took over, if we remember, the old Volkswagen of Nigeria building in Lagos. They took it over, transformed it into Hyundai Nigeria. So they were the very first to start assembling electric vehicles in Nigeria, the Hyundai Kona. Very nice compact vehicle that sort of set a stage, just went viral, went crazy, the first ever assembled EV in the country. So we broke the glass and got that momentum going. And then a number of other companies, motorcycle companies and also automotive companies, started to get into the game. And we also worked on an electric vehicle policy, because we believe that a policy would help push that sector forward. So we did that, and I believe as of now, there's a number of companies in Nigeria that are assembling electric vehicles, and there are even more of them in the pipeline, God willing. So another problem too in Nigeria, as we all know, is a lack of employment. We have millions of youth wandering the streets, wandering the markets and motor parks with absolutely nothing to do, zero contribution to the economy. Huge lag, and a country cannot move forward without harnessing the intellectual capability and practical prowess of its youth. So as NADDC and as part of the mandate, we decided to develop automotive training centers across the country. While I was there, we built close to about 20 of them, 20 of those training centers, so that there would be specialized hubs. And we got equipment mostly from Germany to begin with, to put in those centers. So the intention is to have hubs where young Nigerians would be taught technologies that relate to the automotive sector as per the mandate of that agency. So that was another great endeavor. And then I had visited in my very first months of starting work at NADDC. I visited Zaria because we have the research and development division or directorate out there in Zaria, opposite Samaru. And it was like terrible condition. So we thought it was best to build a whole new R&D center there. And we also said the building has to be top notch. It's got to be a building that you step into it or you approach it, you know, this is like something special. And thankfully, we did that also. It's out there. If anyone gets a chance to visit that facility, it's just remarkable. So these are some of the things that we worked on. Yes, the electric vehicle charging stations. You know, when people thought we were crazy to promote electric vehicles because NEPA comes and goes, we said, yes, there is that problem in Nigeria, but we also have an opportunity here when you look at what is it that we have. So we looked up and we saw the sun. And we said, we will use it to develop electric vehicle charging stations. So that is what we did. We developed 3 of them, 3 automotive, 3 electric vehicle, 100% solar power charging stations. And we said, okay, where shall we position them? We needed to put them in places where they would add the most value, where they would really allow access by young Nigerians who would kick the technology and learn more about it. So we set them up in University of Nigeria in Nsukka. We set another one in University of Lagos, and then a third one in Danfodio University, Sokoto. And 100% solar powered, proven that even in Nigeria, in the middle of nowhere, you can have the necessary energy to power electric vehicles. So once again, immediate challenges should never impede progress, either by an individual or by an organization or by a nation. A lot of times when you have a problem right in front of you, when you look beyond or outside the box, you would see opportunity that allow you to really come up with some innovative solutions that you probably never have thought of. So we were very happy that we had the opportunity to do that, proving that yes, even in Nigeria, even in the middle of nowhere, you can power an electric vehicle. And just imagine if that is taken and scaled up to a crazy size, what we could really do in this nation. People living in remote villages, you know, doctors, pharmacists, you know, school teachers, you know, engineers can all do all that they need to do without worrying about energy to power their vehicles. You could have limitless accessibility by project vehicles that these different people need if you just use electric vehicles powered by the sun. And the best part of it, you're not destroying the environment. So there are opportunities that we really need to look at. When you talk about advanced technology, a lot of people, no matter what sector it is, people say, this is Nigeria, you know, this is Sokoto, this is, you know, this is Niger. You can't do this. You could do this in somewhere else, but not in Nigeria. But I say no. We just have to push the most. We shouldn't settle for old technology. The most advanced technology is what we have to go for. The most advanced technology is what we have to go for. Just like taking the most advanced technology, electric vehicles, 100% electric vehicles, and powering them 100% by solar and dropping them right in the middle of Sokoto. That is what we need to do. We should never be afraid of adopting the most advanced technology for the benefit of our people. Is the only way. There's no going halfway about it anymore. We could do that 10, 20 years ago, right? Where we say, okay, this technology is for Europe, this is for the Americas, and Africa will just settle for this technology. No, Africa needs to understand and leverage and use the most advanced technology. And it doesn't necessarily mean that technology would actually be more expensive. Typically, the more advanced technology is, the more strategy there is behind the conceptualization and development of a technology, actually the cheaper, the more accessible it is. And I think we owe it as Nigerians, wherever we are, whether in the country or without, whether inside or outside, regardless of what our immediate responsibilities are, there's a higher calling that we need to work on and towards enhancing the lives of our people. Because when we do that, when we know that wherever we are, a part of us is helping lives better from where we have come from, I think we'll be more fulfilled. So that was NADDC. I'm glad I really had that opportunity to play my little role, and I'm done with that. And but still, that love, that passion to continue to give to Nigeria is still in me. Thank the Almighty, and that is why I've branched out private sector into two things: the consultancy in Qatar and the group here in Nigeria. Now, why out there in Qatar? Because once again, primary objective Nigeria. So, and as we speak, where do a lot of solutions happen? Where do a lot of people visit and tend and come together? It's outside the country. So the question was, how do you tap? How do you continue to tap into this traffic? Whether resources, whether technology, whether connections, how do you continue to tap into it for the benefit of our people? And hence the choice for Qatar, so that one would have the opportunity to continue to be part of something a whole lot bigger than oneself towards making lives in Nigeria and Africa better. And then here in Nigeria, also, continue to look at how do we on a private level provide those transportation solutions as a private entity that are right for the country. So efforts being made, of course, together with the partners from within and without the country to see how the relevant transportation solutions could be introduced and developed for the country. And then also in the part of youth development, also how do you be part of mentoring the youth? How do you set up, which we have, a center that would mentor and a center that would develop the talent of Nigerians in the country. So these are some of the things happening now. And but the most important thing is to continue to, remind Nigerians, especially the youth, especially young professionals, that yes, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to get it right. And it's not like we're starting from scratch, right? Like I said, we need to remember who we are. Great empires, caliphates and kingdoms that prospered, and life was everyone had the opportunity to contribute. When you talk about lack of employment in Nigeria, unemployment, this is a totally artificial problem. Can you imagine 200 years ago, a young man waking up in one of the towns and saying he didn't have a job? He just lazed around the whole day. No. People had jobs back in those days because you either inherited a job or you went to someone who was an expert and you learned from him. And somehow we forgot that. With the advent of modern education, we lost track. Because actually education should be you go to an institution to learn a skill, a capability to better yourself and become relevant, not just to boast that, yes, I've spent 5, 6, 10 years with this school and here's my certificate. So once again, thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit of my life journey, and to once again remind us all that everyone is special. There's always something one can contribute to making this country the best it could ever be, inshallah. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, sir. I don't even know where to start. To be honest, this is one of our best presentation I could say since from our inception. Yeah, it's among the best. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful presentation and for the concise, brief summary on your career journey, your successes, your challenges, and everything. Before I allow the moderator to organize, because there are a lot of comments, heaps of questions there. Yes, so before I allow her to coordinate the questions out, because someone asked about the cars you design, so I think I quickly went to Google and picked some of them. So with your permission, I will showcase them, and I'll also there is one of the I think it's like a YouTube video, one of our when your supervisor was appraising you. So with your permission, I'll also play it so that they will see more about what you said. So with your permission, I will share the slides with the cast you did, sir. All right, sir. So I think this is the Pontiac. I can ask the Chevrolet. I'll go to yes. So I think this is the one I picked. I think that's the Chevrolet, the EV car. That's yeah. And then this is the Pontiac G6. Sorry, the bottom is a bit blurry. And I think that's the other one is the Chevrolet. I can't remember the other name. Anyway, that's the one I picked from the Google. And I think these are among the other ones that you did. This is the one I saw from the Google. And I'll play the video here about what your supervisor said about you. So please, can you see the videos?
Not yet.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it?
Yes, not yet.
Okay. So just give me one sec. I will share it now. What about now?
Yes.
Here at Sokoto,
Okay.
in the capital of Sokoto State. And I've always loved cars since I was a little kid. And my brothers and dad also love cars a lot. And I love drawing, so I thought I'd put the two together to really go into car design. And as you know, there's nothing like that in Nigeria. Actually, in the whole of Africa, there's no car design. So I had to go outside Nigeria to study automobile design.
When he arrived in the USA, Jelani Aliyu, like many newcomers to different countries, had some challenges.
Hardest thing I think was the weather, especially I came in the middle of January. So in the middle of winter, I left Nigeria, was very, very hot. Nigeria to Sokoto, coming to Michigan, very cold. So that was really the biggest challenge that I had. And the school itself was very, very challenging because it's a lot of people wanted to get into car design, but there were only a few spots. So you really had to be one of the best to get in there. And the competition between the students was really stiff.
Despite this,
Capture a video.
Jelani
It's not coming? How
No,
about
no,
now?
no. It's you are searching for something else. Yeah. It's fine.
Sorry.
I found Jelani exceptionally gifted as a designer, but more surprising was of all the students we had at CCS at that time, he spoke English better than any of the American students who were there. And indeed, I gave him the title Poet Laureate of Transportation Design because not only were his designs very high standard, but his verbal presentation of his design were exceptional. I mean, the best I've ever had for any student.
He always asked the question that was the most searching and that had the most profound consequences. Other students would ask questions like, if we see this building, can we assume that it's in 1910? And Jelani, his question would be more like, what characteristics of 1910 buildings allow me to identify them? You see, there's a greater depth and a greater searching on his part than most of my students. And the other students, I think, it elevated the class as a whole because of that.
Upon graduating from college, Jelani was hired by General Motors as a car designer. Today, he is one of the top car designers in the world, and his design philosophy is heavily influenced by his humble beginnings in northern Nigeria.
You know, car design, because it takes quite a while between the time you come up with a concept, between that and the time it hits the road, it takes a while. So we're always dealing with the future. So in car design, you must be able to really look down the road, see what the competition is, and come up with solutions. And I've personally grown up in Africa. I take a lot of my inspiration from nature. And I try to pull from that and put into my designs. For example, you know, when you look at planet Earth, you see that we live on a truly magical planet. It's a gigantic orb of light hurtling through space. Everywhere we look around us, we're surrounded by wonders of our natural world. From the tiny leaf, only fractions of a millimeter thick, and yet highly efficient factory, to the amazing sea rays that glide within the deep waters of the Atlantic. Planet Earth is a perfect balance of beauty and practicality. So I reach into nature, take my inspiration, learn from it, and I apply it to car design.
Recently, Jelani received global acclaim for leading the design team for the Chevrolet Volt, a car that is seen as the future of General Motors, one of the world's largest car makers.
That from General Motors' point of view, the Volt was a car that was representing the future of General Motors. The fact that every designer at General Motors was given the opportunity to design that car, and all the designers at General Motors, not only in the United States, but in Britain and Germany, submitted ideas for this project because it was considered so important. And the fact that Jelani's design was the one chosen out of maybe 200 submissions from all the designers at General Motors speaks volumes about his potential and his growth and where he will eventually go.
Despite his achievements, Jelani is still truly Nigerian and holds everything about his home country to heart. He is particularly troubled by the negative perceptions about Nigeria created in the global media.
In life, everything has its positives and negatives, and you can find something wrong with any community, with any part of the world. And it's not right to really talk about the negative about Nigeria. The positive far exceeds the negative. And that's what I dwell on. I just keep focused. And I know people might think negatively, but there's a lot of Nigerians. I think Nigerians as a whole are doing good, and they're contributing significantly to the development of the United States, to the development of a lot of countries around the world, and most especially their own country. So I keep that as my focus, and I use that to just continue going forward.
Jelani also has a lot of advice for other Nigerians like him that are working and making a living in other nations around the world.
There's so much potential in Nigeria that really all the people from Nigeria living outside the country should really contribute to the development of that great nation. It is great, you know, to live outside and make a living, but I think there's a if I could say spiritual call to really contribute to our roots. It's just amazing. I mean, each time I think of Nigeria and the potential that exists, the potential in the people, the potential in the land, it's just mind-boggling what could be done. And so Nigerians in the diaspora really need to look at that and know that there's a potential that they can, and this is something that has to be done by both Nigerians inside and outside. But together, Nigerians everywhere can really make a big difference and make Nigeria one of the best countries in the world.
In appreciation of Jelani's role as a worthy ambassador for the nation, the Nigerian Foundation of Michigan last year recognized him at the Independence Day dinner held in Detroit, Michigan.
Jelani Aliyu is an embodiment of that Nigeria needs.
creativity, honesty, worthy ambassador. And I have nothing to say but praises for.
Today, Jelani is living his dream and has some advice for young Nigerians who dream of someday being at the top of their professions.
It reminds me of many years ago when I had a dream myself, and a lot of people said, "No, you just can't do that. We don't even make cars in Nigeria. Why do you want to become a car designer?" But I had a big dream. I had the passion, and I know that nothing is impossible. We must never underestimate the power of the human determination and human imagination. When we see a young kid beginning to excel, beginning to have interest in something, it is up to the community and the parents to really help that person try to nurture that gift so that they can get better and better. But the biggest thing is never to lose hope and to really believe in your imagination and really go for what you want to do. And even if everybody around you says you can't do it, never give up. Just keep on going.
All right.
I own 78 properties.
All right, thank you so much. That's the brief about the Jelani from this short video. Before going to the question and answer session, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Professor A.T. Mora, who has been with us, I think, from the onset and also from the beginning of this. And then I also like to acknowledge the presence of Kaduna State PSN chairman, and who has been here also from the beginning. Another person is, yes, Mr. Sunday Oko, and then Group Captain Folami, who has also been had time to watch this webinar. I would like to call Professor A.T. Mora just to say some few words before we go with the question and answer session. Prof, if you're around, please. Professor Mora. Professor Mora is the former Chairman, Governing Council, Pharmacy Council of Nigeria, and the current Pro-Chancellor, Ignidon University, Okada. Prof, are you close by? Hello, Prof.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Dr. Ibrahim Jata Abubakar, thank you very much for this opportunity to listen to such a distinguished Nigerian. I have known Jelani very well for many years, and I think this presentation is top-notch. What I'm going to say is very brief, so that I allow other people to talk. The point is that there is a lot of similarity between the design of car manufacturing and pharmaceutical production, because in pharmaceutical production, you talk about APIs and excipients, just as in car production, you talk about CKD, that is completely knocked down parts of the vehicle, because the vehicle is made up of different components, you know, and I'm not an expert in that area, but I just try to draw parallel with what we have in the pharmaceutical and manufacturing industry. So we're very happy that Jelani Aliyu, Mai Girma Burden Sokoto has actually given us the inspiration, and I'm sure we're better informed about the future and about what path we should take in our lives, and we should reflect on and identify whatever talent Almighty has given to us so that we can better the society. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate. Just to remind you that Professor Mora is our grand patron, and he has been in almost every on our program we have been doing for the past 8 years, both in person and virtually. I will hand over to Professor Basira Kankia, who will coordinate the question and answer sessions. I think we have a lot of questions and observations, suggestions. She may have to summarize them. Thank you so much, Basira. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jato. And thank you very much to Mr. Jelani Aliyu. It's been a wonderful presentation. So we have a lot of comments, and I've tried to summarize as much as possible. The first question was from Aminu Halilu, and he asked if there was any person you looked up to when you were younger, especially during your days in FGC Sokoto. If that person probably motivated you to go into the field you went into.
All right. So I should go ahead and answer. Okay. Yes. So thank you very much. A very interesting question. Yes, I did. The very first role models that I had were my parents, my mom and dad. They were the closest and best role models I've ever had. Our mom taught us to really respect people and be as good as we could be. And from our dad, we learned, about dedication, focus, and education, and trying to better yourself. And then specifically in terms of automotive design, yes, I was inspired by a couple of people, although they were thousands of kilometers away from Sokoto. And these were the people that designed Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Corvettes. Pininfarina was the company that designed Ferrari, and the great grandson of Pininfarina who headed the company then. And then you had Bertone, was the people that designed Lamborghinis. And then out there in the US, you had Jerry Palmer, who designed quite a number of the Chevrolet Corvettes. So in terms of a career, I was inspired by these people out there in the world and tried to understand how they got to where they did and try to follow the same route.
Okay, thank you for that. So the next is more of a comment from a user who encourages you to consider working with the Northwest Development Commission to try and change the narrative of the region. So it's more of a comment. And then we have a question from a techno user. And I think this question is more for Dr. Jato. Probably you could reply the question in the chat box. It asks how the PSI supports development of practical skills for pharmacy students before graduation. So I think Dr. Jato will reply that in the chat box. We have another question from Salihu Aliyu, and he asks the speaker that what was your greatest mistake and how would you define your success?
Yes. They say life is a journey and is made up of ups and downs. But overall, it is one big school, right? So there are things that, a lot of things or a few things would happen and you would kick yourself and say, why did I do that? Or why didn't this happen? Or why did that happen? And then after some time, probably not long after the event or long after that, you reflect and you sort of begin to understand why that thing really happened and how it had redirected you towards a better path. So I think every person, that's the hardest thing as human beings. A lot of things happen and we are unable to see the good part of it until hopefully later. That is probably something that humans need to work on if we could. But that's how I see life. I see life generally as one big school where you continue to learn. It doesn't end after you graduate and you get that certificate. It continues to happen to you, and I think that's I try to live by that. Try to live by that and learn from. You can learn. You learn from failure and you learn from success, and but both have a certain destiny that they put you towards.
Thank you very much. So we have about 3 questions from pharmacist Ahmed, and he asks that during your design career, were there any design specifications for country-specific peculiarities? And then the second question is if you have an interest in pursuing a career in academia so that you can mentor younger ones. And then thirdly, he asks about your the type of challenges you faced during your tenure as the DG of the NADDC.
Yes. Most of the designs that I had worked on while at GM were for the North American market. Yes, some of them found their way into other places, but they were primarily for North American market because it still is a huge market, huge market. So most of them were for North America. While I was in Germany, of course, the projects I worked on were for Germany and the rest of Europe, the Opals. And then, like I mentioned, I did on my own try to push a vehicle designed specifically for the culture, climate, terrain, and economic structure of Nigeria and Africa. So these are the factors and criteria that dictated a lot of the projects that we worked on in General Motors. The specifications, okay, career in academia, that sounds exciting. You know, it's always it's absolutely necessary that younger ones are enlightened and guided towards developing the relative talent and opportunities that come along to be able to be part of that. You know, like they say, one should always yearn to be part of things much bigger than them. So that would be an exciting opportunity. NADDC challenges, yes. You know, when you're working for the government anywhere, there would be challenges. You know, I liken it to, for example, you know, you're about to go into a race. One scenario, you have a race car ready, the engine is in there, everything is ready. All you need to do is jump into the driver's seat and drive as aggressive and as good as you can to win the race. That's one scenario. The other scenario is, yes, you're about to go into a race and you have to build that race car before you race it. So more of working here is more of that adventure of you got to build that vehicle before you race it. And sometimes you engage points of view that may not necessarily be the same with yours. So you have to, you know, find ways to bring people to see what the vision is. So, and then, you know, when you're working with government, you go through a whole lengthy process of funding and resources. I mean, stuff that you got to do next year, you got to know what they are now and then work towards getting the necessary approvals at many, many different levels before you get it, as opposed to there's already a dedicated part of funding ready for you to leverage for your projects. So those are some of the challenges. And of course, you know, when you're dealing with trying to develop a local automotive sector, there may be people out there who wouldn't necessarily want that to happen. There are some schools of thought who think we should just keep on importing vehicles, which is easier, but in the long run, that's not adding much value to our society in taking people off the streets. But you know, so some of these are some of the challenges. But you know, like we always say, every endeavor or anything in life has its challenges.
Yes, certainly. There's always challenges on the way. So another question from Mustafa Muhammad. He asks that recently a lot of foundations have been sponsoring students to pursue different courses, medical and non-medical. So he says that for those who studied the medical courses, immediately on return to Nigeria, were able to secure jobs, while for those who studied the non-medical courses, keep struggling for years to secure jobs. So he is asking, in today's Nigeria, where opportunities are limited, how would you advise young people to balance following their passion with choosing careers based on available opportunities?
Yes, very important one. For people who are already studying overseas or who are already out there, I don't think one should be in a big hurry to come back immediately after school for a few reasons. Number one, you're already probably around opportunities that would help you to grow even more, because a lot of the growth that I went through happened after school. It was while I was working in the real world, right? Real world challenges. So one shouldn't be too much in a hurry after graduating from school to come back to Nigeria to help Nigeria. It's in the best interest of Nigeria that you work a little bit, if you could, gain more experience, gain more connections, and then come back home, unless you absolutely have to as soon as you're done. It's all about when you have people living in societies or anywhere, you wake up, go through the hours, the day, there are problems, there are challenges, there are needs. And so those challenges and needs are really dictate where one can add value. So a society that has problems in this one sector or lack of this solution here or there, and you're in a position to provide those solutions, you would, of course, naturally be more relevant in that society as opposed to having a skill set or capability that is irrelevant unless you are going to go the extra mile and create that problem. So probably the reason why certain group of people get jobs back here is maybe that's what we're lacking, right? That's what's needed. But even if you learn it in something that isn't necessarily obviously needed immediately, you could probably, through a lot of strategy, see how you could fit what you have learned to provide that solution in terms of flexibility. Sometimes you may have learned a certain skill or gone through a certain course, and it may not literally be applicable in Nigeria. But how are you flexible? How do you transform yourself to be relevant? But the big question, the big picture is how do you add value? What are the problems, whether they're in health, in housing, in that health? Is it research that needs to be done? Is it the development of certain solutions, pharmaceutical products, or the way it's delivered? If you're, in engineering, how are you going to relate? How are you going to be relevant? What is it that your society needs? And how do you, add value immediately after you graduate and come back home? Or if you're studying in the country also, like I said, it's not just enough to have that degree. Even if you're studying in Nigeria, even if your curriculum isn't focused on the real world solutions of your society, you should individually or independently see how you could be of use to your society so that you're relevant. Even if you end up getting a job and the people or the institution you work for don't really care about the society, they're just there because that's what they do, you should, as an individual, see how you add value and become relevant. And you'll see that over years, as you grow, you begin to distance yourself from the mediocre crowd, you excel, and you become better, whether you studied overseas or you studied here. At the end of the day, really, it's about that passion in you to be different and add value in a new and exciting manner.
Thank you. So we have another comment. I think it's an addendum to the previous comment on if you could consider supporting the Northwest Development Commission. So this user mentions that if you could, he's trying to encourage partnering with some key profiles from the North to champion training local artisans and SMEs to produce specific auto parts such as seats, wiring harnesses, metal fabrications for the national and regional market. And if you could also partner with polytechnics and universities to redesign automotive engineering curricula. So I think if you have maybe something to share about that.
Yes, definitely. What else would one do if one doesn't help the society he's from? So all these things that have been mentioned are really very exciting opportunities and endeavors that need to be given more focus. And if definitely, teams could be put together that would sort of ensure the necessary support and resources to make this happen. I think the time to do that is now, not yesterday, yesterday too, but not tomorrow, immediately. I'm always willing and ready to work with like-minded, committed people to develop that region and in effect the nation. There's so much that could be done, and we all need to play our role in really seeing how we can do that. Definitely.
Thank you so much for that. So we have one question from Mr. Akanji Obashola, and he asks if you have a mentorship platform for young Nigerian professionals who are interested in car design and engineering and even beyond that.
Yes, yes. It's primarily in Sokoto, the physical location itself. We call it the Imagination Center, where we organize talks to young kids in the area and try to put them on the right path. And then also here, of course, now with the internet and all these ways you can connect with people, I connect with a number of young Nigerians who are interested in developing their talents, to give them advice, on how to better that talent. And I think hold on, my battery is down. Yes, so we do that. There's quite a number of them that are very talented, and I've been working with them and guiding them towards achieving their success. And like I said earlier, part of the things that we're doing here is working towards something even bigger, even more physical, even more central, where more talented youth can be given that perspective and that guidance and that support to develop their talents.
Okay, thank you for that. So I think the last question, I think that I would love to ask you this question. And I just would like to ask you, during your career, have you ever felt that you feel saturated with the work you've been doing in automotive design and feel that you may consider having a career reinvention or switch? And how did you navigate through that?
Yes. Okay, I'll turn the camera off because I'm trying to get the power cord to keep the phone on. Yes. Well, automotive design is something that I've loved since I was very, very young. And I believe it's something that made me go quite very far from home and family to be able to become a car designer. It's something that's in me. They say like you're bitten by the bug, right? So you love it and you're going to keep on loving it. But at the same time, I'm very passionate about architecture, and I believe a lot could be done there too in architecture in terms of providing relevant, affordable housing for Nigerians, and not just ramshackle affordable housing, but the type of housing that is respectable, modern, energy efficient, and accessible. I think because I did study architecture at Birmingham Polytechnic before I went to the US, so I'm very passionate about architecture. I'm also very passionate about, and we've been talking about it, the academia in terms of practical skills for developing the young minds in the country. So I don't think it would necessarily have to be a switch between automotive design, from automotive design into something else, but more of, exploring other avenues too that I've always had love for. And the school I went to, transportation design is a subset of what they call industrial design. And, industrial design is classified as a tool for survival and economic growth, coming up with solutions, practical solutions for the problems that people face, whether it's a new ICT solution, a new type of hardware for transportation or housing or things that add value to people's lives. So generally, my passion is, yes, in automotive, but a wide variety of solutions that put a smile on people's face. Are things that move me.
Thank you so much, sir, for the responses to the questions. We really appreciate. And so now, Dr. Jato, hand over to you.
Hello, is Dr. Jato there? Maybe.
No, I'm here. Thank you so
Okay.
much, sir, and thank you so much, Professor Kenkia, for this coordination. Before going to the next item on the agenda, which is presentation of certificate, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Commandant Onibiyo from Office of the Security National Advisor, Director of Critical National Asset and Infrastructure Protection. Also, I would like to acknowledge it's a question made by Umar. So I know you recognize Umar, the boy from Kano. You're one of your mentee, but we don't have much time. We are past then. I think I will send it to your WhatsApp so that you can address it there. And then finally, I will share the slides for Dr. Abubakar Shaban to present the certificate to you, sir, on behalf of Pharmacy Scholars Initiative. Dr. Shaban.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. And at this point, it's my pleasure to formally present a certificate of appreciation to our distinguished speaker, Jelani Aliyu, in recognition of his outstanding contribution to PSI and this 8th webinar series. Thank you for generously sharing your time, expertise, and inspiring insights on driven by focus and vision, success in professional world. Your session has added immense value to our community, and we are fully and truly grateful for your impactful engagement. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor and a great pleasure. Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay, and I think finally, we'll want to thank each and every one of the participants. On behalf of PSI, I would like to thank all our participants for joining this webinar and then being present and engaging throughout. We can see from the questions, it has been very, very engaging and welcome. We hope today's conversation encourages you to remain research-driven and focused, so that at least it will for the betterment of your own passion and other things. We look forward to welcoming you to our PSI next webinar, and thank you and have a wonderful day. And
All right,
finally, everything will be shared. If you have signed into the chat, you've clicked on the link with your details. We will share the certificate of attendance and the link to the videos. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Shaban. We really appreciate everyone. Thank you so much, sir, for finding time to be our guest, and we really appreciate it. We thank everyone. The names are so many, we can't mention them one by one, but we appreciate everyone's presence here. Ubasali Magani, I saw your comment, but out of time, because we are run out of time, we are unable to raise your questions. We apologize. Thank you so much, everyone, and looking forward to our next webinar, which we'll announce via the usual portal. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day.
Thank you.